unfortunately, in the past, the way education was that we were preparing people, individuals, to do rote work, essentially. Think of the school as an institution. The doorbell rings, people come in, you work from 9 to 5. You're preparing people to do skilled labor. But now with the advent of robots, now that robots are capable of doing that, our role as humans has to shift. And we really need to understand, what is the AI good at? And what are the humans good at? Because we're no longer going to do what we used to do in the past. So why is STEM and Tvet so important? Why are all these economies investing? And so in the last course, I talked a lot about what's happening in the world. And so what's happening, I can start here in Qatar. Qatar National Vision 2030, if you read through it, STEM and Tvet is a huge initiative. Look at Saudi National Vision. Same thing, STEM Tvet. It's in every national vision almost. Why? Because it's important for the economy. If you have new jobs that are going to open up, but you don't have people to fill those roles, it's a really big problem. So we need to get people, we need to upskill humans as fast as possible to be able to fill these roles that are coming in the future. So this is why, all of these reasons are why they're part of these national visions. Because of the global competitiveness. Basically, if you have a group of people that are good at STEM, you are a superpower. Think of the countries that have the best tech companies in the world. They have the leaders in STEM and Tvet, right? So the stronger your STEM and Tvet workforce, the stronger the economy, the stronger the country. So in order for your economy to remain competitive, you need to upskill your people. And that's why a lot of money and funding and grants are being poured into STEM and Tvet. Education and STEM and Tvet programs in general. Sustainable development is huge. We're going to talk more about sustainability. They have high-wage jobs. They foster entrepreneurial activity, new businesses, new ideas. Like, think of the ideas that are being created now because of AI. Like, people get creative with these new ideas. Because of this new tech, there are new needs that are coming out. So anyhow, these are all a lot of reasons why STEM and Tvet are important. But what is STEM? We're going to go back to the basics just for the people that weren't here last time. STEM is an interdisciplinary approach to teaching. So in the past, you probably learned science alone, engineering alone, math alone. They were separate subjects. STEM is an interdisciplinary approach where we don't teach each subject separately. I'll give you an example. Let's think about a cell phone. To create a cell phone, do you need just science, or just tech, or just engineering, or just math? To create a cell phone, you need a little bit of each. You need to have a good understanding of each one of those. And so STEM is basically, we're not teaching science alone anymore. We're teaching things through a project. And we're giving the students the ability to know where to find information in science, in technology, in engineering, in math, just like a real world problem, any real world problem. STEM is everywhere we go. Everywhere we go, we see some examples of STEM. It's in healthcare, it's in technology, it's in, even like when we go to the mall, you're going through the escalator, that's a STEM project, right? It's literally in every facet of life. STEM empowers students to innovate. All these innovations, we can innovate in healthcare, innovating in sustainability. All of these innovations, with STEM skills, you can innovate. To remain globally competitive, Europe needs to develop more engineers and technicians who can support its innovation economy and drive productivity growth. So these are all just examples and quotes. What is Tvet? Tvet is the technical vocational education and training. They're the skills. Some people call them trades or skills. And right now, they're almost more important or as important as the STEM. STEM and Tvet have kind of been married together. Most educational programs now are teaching them together. In the past, it was like Tvet was separate from STEM. But now they're realizing that they actually need them, you need them both. You need the science, the technology, you need that interdisciplinary understanding, but you also need the skills, like how to do welding or you also need the actual skills. So STEM and Tvet, you'll see them commonly together. In the past, it was like you had STEM programs and you had Tvet or vocational programs. Now they're always married. Tvet, think of practical skills. Think of electricians, think of welders, think of any kind of, think of coders, right? These are all examples of technical and vocational training. These are really important because, with these kinds of skills, you can immediately get work, right? Tvet is a bridge to employment. It's a fast way to get employed, and it equips students with skills. STEM and Tvet education are extremely important nowadays, and that's just a quick foundational start, just to give you some idea of where we're at. All right, so now we're going to start with our new content. So we've heard a lot about teaching for the 21st century. I'm sure you've heard it. Have you heard it? Who's heard that? Teaching and learning for the 21st century. Who's heard that buzzword?
Yeah.
Do you know what it means? Do you know what it means? What does it mean? We know it's a change in education, but what does it mean? What does it mean to be a 21st century educator?
I mean, it's usually linked to like AI or technology or something usually when they talk about that.
So incorporating tech. Mostly. Okay, any other ideas? When I say 21st century teaching and learning, what comes to your mind?
Targeted for the Gen Z, the new generation.
You think of the new generation?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay, we're going to talk a lot about that today. So basically what's happening is that traditional learning isn't working anymore. This style of lecturing doesn't work. The retention is very, very low. There has to be interaction. There has to be hands-on work in order for learning to actually happen. Because this is what we're preparing our students for. This is exactly what we're preparing our students for. This is the world that's coming. So the way that we are currently teaching isn't going to prepare our students for this. Because what's going to happen is that they're going to be in competition with the AI if we continue teaching the way we are now. What do you think, who do you think can do math better? A human or a robot?
Definitely a robot.
Definitely a robot, right? So if we continue to teach the same skills that we're currently teaching, we're setting our students up for failure because those are not the skills that they need in the future. Because now the AI can do those things. They need to know a different skill set. They need to be able to do other things. Now this is something that is very, very recent. I don't know if you've heard of this. Yes, you're following? So does anyone know what the Turing test is? Some of you? The Turing test. Okay, so this is a study out of UC San Diego. It's very fresh, like this is last week. Okay, UC San Diego, it hasn't been peer reviewed yet, and right now because of AI, articles that are not peer reviewed are a little bit scary, right? But UC San Diego is a reputable school, and they tested 350 people, I think, chatted with this chatbot that basically fooled them into thinking that it was human. They couldn't tell the difference. They couldn't tell whether they were talking to a computer or a human. They thought they were talking to a human. So the AI was capable of fooling 74% of 350 people. So basically, the robot fooled the humans. And this is called the Turing test. This is a test that started way back in the 1950s, and they constantly use it to test computers and robots and AI to see how smart they actually are. Can humans differentiate between the AI and the Turing test? They actually passed. So this is actually really, the Independent is not really a good, reliable source of information, but I did find the actual article, which I have linked. This is the abstract. It hasn't been peer reviewed yet, but it talks about the actual test and who tested it and what happened. So very interesting. But these large language models basically pass the Turing test. Can you imagine, what does that mean? What does that mean in the future? If you can't tell the difference between an AI and a person,
I want to meet him face to face. That's how I'll know.
Soon you
that's how you'll know. I like that.
Face to face.
I like that. If you have something, come see me. I will talk about it.
Actually, we're kind of faced with that right now because when our bank accounts get hacked, when our payroll gets hacked, when police tickets
Yeah.
issuing gets hacked,
Yeah, hacking it.
you check it, and it's exactly the same site.
Yeah.
Everything is copied, so although it's kind of like an AI model,
But now it's on steroids because now they can hack you in so many different ways. They can get, I mean, it's been happening for a while where you do get calls and they sound like humans and everything. But now it's going to get a lot worse. When you think of your basic day-to-day functions, you call the bank, and you can't tell the difference if it's a person or an AI. That's what's going to happen because more and more businesses, are they going to hire people when they can get AI agents to do the work?
that's what they're talking about.
They don't complain, they work 24 hours, right?
That's what they're talking about, presidential addresses to the public. Are they actually doing it, or is it AI, right?
Yeah, we did hear, there's a definite rumors, definitely. So anyhow, the technology is advancing super quickly. Investment in skills is really key to the future economic prosperity. The higher the level of education and skills, the greater the potential to foster innovation, improve productivity, and sustain long-term economic growth. Going back to those 21st century skills. These are the 21st century skills. This is what we need to teach our students, basically. These are the skills that our students need in order to thrive in a digital era, in this new era of AI. They need these skills. I want you to take a quick look at this. I want you to really be honest with yourselves and do some self-reflection. Are you teaching these skills to your students? Do you really understand these skills yourself? Just think about it. Like, how proficient are you with technology? Do you understand critical thinking? How many different kinds of critical thinking there are? How many levels of critical thinking? Do you know that there are levels for critical thinking? Let's see. What about your emotional intelligence? When was the last time you took an EQ test? In order for us to be able to teach these skills to our students, we need to understand them ourselves. So the question is, are you a 21st century teacher? You don't have to answer that. But it's a rhetorical question. Are you? So let's take this quick survey. In today's fast-changing world, what are the key 21st century skills that you need? So I want you to scan this QR code. This is for a Padlet. And I want you to leave some comments for me. What skills do you think right now? Just be honest with yourself. This is not going to be used anywhere. It's going to be anonymous. You don't have to worry about it. I want you to be honest and say, like, what skills do you think you need right now to take your teaching to the next level? Like, what are you missing? Or what skills do you think you need more work on? Like, do you need to work on your emotional intelligence? Do you need to work more on your tech skills? Or in general, what do teachers do you think, what do they need now? What are some of the skills that they really, really need? Because we saw what the learners need, but what do the teachers really need? Is this working, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it working?
He's asking to install an app.
No, it shouldn't
No,
ask you
no,
to install
for
that. You should use it on a web browser, right? It's a Padlet.
Yeah, that one slash something.
Is anyone able to access it?
Yeah.
Do you need to download it?
No.
No, you don't. I think just click open in web browser. You should be able to open it in a web browser. You don't have to download the actual app. Okay, so we're gonna just kind of, you can take your time and answer that. We're going to kind of, okay. So all of these presentations, people, here at PD Day, everyone's talking about 21st century learning and teaching, but what does it really mean? How do you do it? How do you achieve it? How am I really going to shift myself? And that's where we're going to talk about a framework that hopefully will help put things in perspective. Have any of you heard of TPAC? TPAC. Is anyone here? Is anyone familiar with TPAC? No one? Okay. It's an ed tech thing. So don't feel bad if you don't know. All right, so basically one of the biggest things that we need to do in order to be 21st century teachers is to embrace technology. So if you haven't yet started to dabble with AI, if you haven't yet started to try utilizing simulation software, if you haven't tried to use AR, VR, and things like that, I highly urge you, and I not dare you, kind of gently, kindly challenge you to try something new every semester. Every semester, put in an effort to try some kind of new technology. This is an example of what's happening. I showed this in our last time. This is an example of what's happening around the world. This is in Stanford University. This is an example of a class that's held completely in VR. The entire class. This is the whole class. They're all wearing VR headsets, and their professor is there with them as well. So the whole class session is delivered in a virtual world. And this class is called Virtual People. And it is one of the highly sought over classes after classes at Stanford. It's always booked. Students like this. They like to be in this digital world. So this is an example of some things. These are some of the benefits. When you utilize more technology, you enhance student engagement, you're allowing students to personalize their own learning, you're creating real-world relevance, you're promoting more collaboration, and it really helps with assessment. Using the tech really helps with the assessment. So let's move on to TPAC. So now we know that technology is a really, really important part of becoming a 21st century teacher. But how do I incorporate it? Where do I start? So the TPAC model will hopefully help you. We're not going to go over all the details of the TPAC model, but enough to give you a well-rounded idea. So the first thing I want you guys to look at are the 3 circles. In order for a teacher to be a 21st century teacher, you need to be competent in 3 things. All of you here now are content experts. You're all subject matter experts. You all have expertise in math, science, whatever your subject is, the area that you teach, engineering, computer science, whatever area you're in, you are experts in your content. But does that mean if someone is a subject matter expert, does that mean they're a good teacher? Please don't take offense, we're talking in general. If someone is really good at something, and they have the content, does that mean they're a good instructor?
No.
Not necessarily. You can have a lot of experts in things, but they don't know how to teach it, right? So that's a skill, and that is called pedagogical knowledge. In the past, pedagogical knowledge was not very important because the classes were traditional. But now, it's extremely important. Pedagogical knowledge is the science of teaching and learning, and that's what we do in AEL. The third circle is technological knowledge. So in order for a teacher to be a 21st century teacher, you need to have great skills, not only in your content, but you have to understand the pedagogy and you have to understand the tech. You need these 3 things in order to achieve this sweet spot right here. This sweet spot here, which is a 21st century teacher. So let's take a quick look. If you know the content knowledge, the blue circle, that means you know the facts and concepts of your field. You know the theoretical frameworks, you know the analogies, you know the procedures, you know all the facts, the info, right? The pedagogical knowledge, things like planning lessons, teaching structures, learning routines, classroom management, learning science, how students learn. Like, for example, do you know something about the forgetting curve? Do you know that every student forgets? You guys know that there's a forgetting curve? You teach something, they forget it, then they have to relearn it, then they forget it. It takes a few times before it goes to the long-term memory. So understanding how people learn, understanding the science of learning. How does learning happen? What is the relationship between the working memory and the long-term memory? Things like cognitive load. For example, you can't teach them more than 3 things because it won't fit. It's too much. The processor, which is our working memory, cannot process more than 6 to 7 concepts, right? So things like that. And then how do we take that content and store it in our long-term memory? All of those are things that teachers need to understand in order to be effective in the 21st century. We need to understand how our students learn. We need to understand how to be effective teachers. We also need to understand the tech. We need to understand when the technology is actually useful. We're not going to use tech just because we want to use tech. The tech needs to have a purpose. The tech needs to further the learning or it's useless, right? But we're going to talk about how to differentiate. We have to be able to adapt to the changing technology. We have to be able to understand IT in general and be able to utilize it in our daily lives. So this is where it gets a little bit murky. So you've got pedagogical content knowledge. So if you understand pedagogy and you understand content, that's great, but you're missing the tech, right? You understand content, and you understand pedagogy, that means learning is happening. Learning is happening. But to make it more engaging, we would need to add the tech. Basically, this is knowledge of how to teach specific content effectively and transformation of the subject matter into a way that students can actually digest it and understand it. Technological content knowledge, understanding how technology and content influence and shape each other. So knowing which tech to use for which content. I'll give you an example. So if you're in a science class, there are certain science tech tools. But if you're teaching English, there are certain English language tech tools. So using the right technology for the right content. Technological, pedagogical knowledge, having some tech knowledge and having pedagogical knowledge is great, but you need the content. If you don't understand it yourself, you can't really teach it effectively. So the sweet spot is right here in the middle. When you actually understand, you're intentional. You know that you're using this technology with this content, and this is the learning science, the pedagogy that you're using. When you put all those 3 elements together and you're intentional, that's when learning happens exponentially. But most universities, especially in the past, did not prepare students. Like if you have a PhD in physics, you didn't take a year of teaching and learning, but then you're a physics instructor or a professor. So that means for you personally, you're missing the pedagogical knowledge. So this is going to be like a self-assessment. So what are some challenges? Now that we know that in order to be a 21st century teacher, like you guys said, we need to add more tech. Now we understand that we need to have pedagogy, tech, and content to be effective. What are some of the challenges? These are all the challenges. There's a lot more too. You don't have enough training. You don't have time, right? I'm sure if I ask you guys now, the number one thing I hear, I don't have time. I don't have time to learn new tech. I don't have time. I barely have time to grade my papers and see my students, and I have hundreds of students. I don't have time. I don't really know what I don't know. Pedagogical challenges. You don't know what you're missing, right? Hopefully today, after today's session, and you saw the 3 circles, you'll start to self-assess and see what you're missing. Equity issues. Students are distracted. They have cell phones. These are all examples of challenges that we and our students are facing when it comes to the text. I want you to take a moment, please scan this and explain to me, what are your personal challenges with technology here at UDST? Why aren't you incorporating more tech? What are your personal barriers that are hindering you from adding more technology to your classes? Is it because of time? Any of the ones we just mentioned, or any other ones? What is keeping you away from adding more technology? Because as we saw today at PD Day, you heard Dr. Sanin, he's like, we're an applied university. We need, okay, great, yes, we are an applied university, but I want to know what are the challenges that you have? Because we can't really move forward until we understand what those challenges are. I can't promise that I'm going to solve them, but I can promise that I'll try. I don't have a lot of power, but I will try within my zone of power to assist as I can. If that could be more training, which is something that I can do. So understanding what your barriers and challenges are will be helpful. Maybe you're scared of the tech, and that's okay. That's a valid reason. Maybe you just are not interested. Like, I don't care. It could be anything. All right, we're going to move on. How do you do that? All right. So, how are we going to integrate more technology into our classes? How do we do it? We have to understand the goal of tech integration. The goal of technology integration is not just to use the tool for the sake of the tool. It has to be used purposefully to enhance the student teaching and learning. Purposeful technology integration focuses on aligning the technology with the learning objectives to maximize student engagement and learning routines. So, adding, for example, a Kahoot to your class. Oh yeah, that's fun. But is it conducive to learning? Is this Kahoot adding value to your students? Is it pushing them to learn? Is it connected to the learning objectives? Are the questions that you're asking in the Kahoot connected to the learning objectives? If they are, then that's great use of the tech. You're using the technology to enhance the learning. But if you're using the Kahoot just to engage the students because you think it might be fun for them, that's not a great use of the tech. The technology must be aligned with the learning objectives. I'm going to give you an example from my field. So as an ed tech, as an instructional designer, back in the day, I've had to design learning for so many different kinds of people. One of the things that I have to do is I have to do a needs analysis. I have to understand what does this person need to learn, and then I also have to understand what does their day look like. What is the best way for me to incorporate learning in their day? So for example, at a company that I once worked for that had truck drivers, this is in the industry back in the States, they needed to do some training for these truck drivers. It was a safety training. What do you think is the best way to deliver education using technology for truck drivers? Would it be a course?
Simulation.
A simulation, possibly. But what if they're driving all day?
Well, you would challenge them in the simulation.
What if they're driving and I have to teach them and I can't get them in a classroom? What was that?
Pay them overtime.
They don't have time, they're busy.
Video games.
Games?
Video games.
Video games, yes, if they had time, definitely that would be amazing. So one of the things that I have to do as a learning experience designer is I have to think, okay, so they're driving 10 hours a day because they're delivering stuff from Vermont to Florida. So why don't I use a podcast to teach? Because they have a lot of time on the road, right? And I can add learning science. I can add the spaced repetition. I can add quizzes even, audio ones. So for me, I am using technology not as a one-size-fits-all. I'm utilizing the tech for the lifestyle, the time, and the limitations that I have. A truck driver doesn't have time to watch a video, doesn't have time to play a game, for example, but they do have a lot of time on the road where they can listen to something, right? So in that case, I would use a podcast or an audiobook or something similar to improve the learning, right? So this is just an example of ways that we can start thinking of utilizing different kinds of tech to drive learning. So this actually explains to you, this is kind of a short test that you can do to ask yourself, so I have this tech, what value is it providing for my class? This is called the SAMR model. It stands for substitution, augmentation, modification, and redefinition. It's to help educators evaluate how they're using technology. All right, let's take a look. So sometimes a technology substitutes something. That's all it does, is it substitutes. Can you give me an example of a tech that substitutes something? Substitution. Can you think of something that substitutes? So in the class, you might have your students sitting down and they're writing in their notebooks. So if they open up a Google Doc and they're typing, that's a substitution. We're substituting paper and a pencil for a word processor, right? That's a simple tech. It's just substitution. That's the only purpose. The purpose is substitution. Augmentation, where it is a substitute, but it has some improvements. Also think of a word processor. A word processor, you can change the colors, you can share the notes, you can send them to someone, you can highlight parts of it, you can add images and pictures. So it is a substitution with enhancement, and that's augmentation. Oops. Modification, technology allows for significant redesign. So some of the technology just enhances the learning a little bit. It's just a different way of learning. But some tech transforms the learning, completely changes it. Can you think of ways? So we have modification, technology allows for significant task redesign, or the technology allows for the creation of new tasks previously inconceivable. So we've got redefinition and we've got modification. Can you think of examples?
Podcast.
A podcast?
LMS, specific LMS for your course.
An LMS. Let's see some examples. So here are some examples that I provided you with. So we've got substitution, we talked about the word processor. Google Docs, you have real-time collaboration, that's augmentation. Modification, using a virtual lab to explore scientific concepts. That is a completely different thing. You're using tech to recreate a whole lab. So that is considered modification. You're modifying the learning. You can't deliver that. You can't do that in a classroom without the technology. Because I don't have a lab here. I don't have a lab right now. But I can use a technology tool to bring a lab. That is called modification. Redefinition is creating prototypes of engineering using 3D printing, for example. Redefinition is they're actually creating something completely new using the technologies. So, how do we add more tech to our classes? How do we merge between the TPAC and the SAMR together? We understand that as teachers, we need to know technology, pedagogy, and the content. And then when we do choose the tech, we're intentional with our choice. And we think of, is this technology just going to replace something? It's not going to do much. But is this technology going to create a whole new experience for my students? We have to start thinking along those lines. So get clear on what you want your students to learn. What are the objectives? What are the objectives? What's the end result? What do I want my students to actually learn by the end of the lesson? By the end of the lesson, I want them to create a mechanical part. Okay, then it might be good to use the 3D printer because they can actually create it and then print it out, right? So first get clear on what you want your students to do, then choose the tech. Which tech will help me or help my students get there? I'll make sure that when you do use the tech, you're utilizing the pedagogy. So for example, the cognitive load, breaking the lesson into smaller parts, things like that. And then always assess, evaluate yourself, and adapt and iterate. We do this all the time. I'll create a learning experience and it will fail. It happens all the time. You create something, it doesn't work the first time. It's okay, I'll take it back, I'll change it a bit, and I'll try it again. There's no like one size fits all. Sometimes like this training, maybe it's not working for you, or maybe it did work for you. The same exact training, if I take it to another class, it might not work. There's a lot of variables, the audience, my mood, my energy levels, your background knowledge. Maybe you already know this, so this would be boring for you. So there's a lot of different variables. And so what I have to do constantly as an instructional designer is constantly shift, adapt, and change to meet my learners where they are. That's why today I added some surveys, because I want to know, what are you guys thinking? What do you think? Because I'll take that data and I'll add it to my next slides, to my next group. I'll improve it. It'll help me improve. All right, our final part, I promise I'm almost done, and then I'm going to open the floor to you guys. Sustainability. What is this? Like, we've been hearing so much about sustainability. Why is it such a buzzword? Because we're preparing for a green future, because basically we messed up the world. With all the technological advancement, we're starting to mess up the world that we currently have. Think about deforestation, think about pollution, think about global warming, think about all the big major problems that are happening around the world. So now what we need to do to remain relevant is to teach our students that whenever they do create something or invent something or develop something, they have to develop it with sustainability in mind. The United Nations created the SDGs. Are you familiar with the SDGs? It completely flopped, didn't work, but they're in the process of redeveloping the SDGs because it was a global thing. There was a lot of issues with communication. Not everybody was on board, but basically the goal is to get everyone around the world to be more sustainable, right? And why is sustainability important? It's because, basically there's no planet B. We only have one planet. Only one planet. There's no planet B. We have to keep this planet. So we have to, anytime we invent a technology, invent something, create something, we have to create it in a way that's sustainable. How do we incorporate or integrate sustainability into our curriculum? Easy. We make it intentional. We have to, within our learning objectives. When we ask our students to use the technology or to create something, we ask them, okay, you're going to create this, but also how can you make your project more sustainable? You created this project, you created this thing. Now go back and think, how can you make it more sustainable? So we have to teach it. We have to be deliberate about it. We have to incorporate it in our rubrics, in our assessments, and make our students think about it. And the only way they're going to think about it is if we start assessing it and teaching it and delivering on it. So, finding also ways to utilize the technology for sustainability purposes. There's so many tech that's being developed to help with sustainability and encouraging our students to utilize those tech tools. And finally, and this is a really, really important quote that I want to leave you with today, the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. That's the new norm. We're going to be constantly learning and unlearning and relearning. Technology is advancing. I'm going to give you an example from my personal life. I did a second master's degree in EdTech. And I learned a software, an EdTech software. For 2 years, I learned how to utilize this software. Guess what? That software is obsolete now. It's no longer used. We use a different software that I also know how to use, but I had to enhance my learning. I had to unlearn, that's gone, I don't have to worry about that anymore. And I had to focus on learning and relearning this new other software. So learning is the new normal. I hope I inspired you today. I do appreciate you guys being here. Please don't leave before I take attendance. Thank you so much for coming. I hope my goal from this whole presentation, my learning objective was one, just to plant a seed. To plant a seed. If you don't incorporate technology, to start thinking about ways that you can. And I do want you guys to know that in the Applied Experiential Learning team, we're here to support you. I support faculty, I don't support students. You guys support the students. I support you. My job is to help you. So that's what I'm being paid for. That's why I'm in Qatar. I'm here to help you. So if you need help with pedagogy, if you need help with technology, like maybe you just need a soundboard, maybe you need someone to say, hey, I'm planning on teaching this lesson, I'm planning on adding this tech, and hey, can you just take a look and see if you have any feedback or ideas? We would gladly do that. We're a team of about 6 total, and we do have one-on-one sessions. All you have to do is email AEL@UDST. If you just email this, your question will be filtered to the right person on our team. We'll get back to you and invite you to a one-on-one session. We also offer training sessions bi-weekly, regularly. And by the way, since I have you here, I'm going to share something with you very quickly. But before I do that, why don't you quickly take this survey, because this is how I'm going to know that you attended this session. So please take the survey. Once you take the survey, I will mark you guys present on our database, which will enable you to be able to print out your certificate for today's session. And I'm also going to read out your names here, so we're going to do double attendance today. And I do want to share one thing that might make your lives a little bit easier when navigating AEL stuff before you leave today. So can I ask, is Amira here? No? William? I thought I saw William. Did he leave? Duncan? Mohammed Rahuma? Milan? I saw Milan. Luca? Brent?
Here.
Mohammed Trigui or Trigu? Okay. Did I say that right? I'm sorry, I butchered it. Mustafa Hamadi?
Yes.
Bassam Musa?
Right here.
Fasna Olikal? Khalid Shami? Alexandra? Here. Minad?
Yes.
Apostolos? Joeria? Ali?
Yes.
Ali will Kas. Which one? You're Ali. Mitchell? Brian Kennedy? Suleiman Seri? Asil Al-Wadia? Rizwan Choudhury? No? Okay, that means the rest of you came here without registering, that's fine.
Are you registered?
No, I'm just gonna send
We
it.
registered.
Oh, you registered? Then maybe this is an old one then.
Yeah.
Okay, if you take this, I will mark you, but if you want, I'm gonna pass this around, and I just want you guys to write your names on it, okay? And while this is happening, here's my pen, and here's the list. You can just write your name and pass it around. And while you do that, I just quickly want to ask you, or inform you real quick. So if we go here, I don't know if this is going to open, I hope it does. We're going to give it a quick try. Let's see, let me just close all these windows. Let's see. Okay, great, it opened. Okay, so I want you guys to take a quick look. This is our, our UDST hub. If you click on departments and then you click on Applied and Experiential Learning Department, this is a new project that we just finished. We just revamped our site. And the goal, it looks a little wonky here, but on your screen it'll look fine. What it is basically it's a one-stop shop for everything related to AEL. Okay, so in the past, the user experience was a little bit off. You guys had to go to different places to get different things. Now, if you want anything AEL, go here first. So let's say you want a PD session. Look, there's a cute little thing here. If you click on it, it'll take you to the AEL session site. You can see the latest workshops. This also explains what we do. We offer faculty support, we offer college support, we offer ed tech services and instructional design services. And this one is what really matters to you guys, faculty development and support. We offer one-on-one consultations, we have PD workshops, we have lunch and learn sessions, faculty orientations, PD Day. This is the website that you guys could find for today's session. We will add the recordings to that soon. There's the faculty newsletters. I want to show you this. This is an archive of all of our faculty newsletters, which I highly recommend that you read. It takes a second. It's a one-pager. We send it out every month. Every month, the Vice President's office sends out a one-page newsletter. It tells you just everything you need to know about what's happening at AEL. So if you're interested in the Harvard, for example, the Harvard Instructional Design Instructional Certificate, that's where you'll find out about it first, through the newsletter. You can also find more information about the ILC. And then we have a tab for teaching and learning services here on the far right. You'll also find some easy access. You can book